Welcome back to another episode of Generation Elevation. Now, today I am joined by a very special guest whom has been traveling for the past 3 years. He actually just told me that he went from homeless to six figures in just 8 months. His craft is business astrology in regards to sales and marketing, helping people get more engagement by using their birth chart. So, with that said, I would like to introduce to you today Sunny. Sunny, how are you?
Feeling good, feeling money as always.
Feeling
Thanks
money?
for having me.
My pleasure, my pleasure. So, Sunny, I know that I mentioned this earlier. Majority of my audience know a little bit about astrology. However, I've never had anyone that is an astrologist come onto my show before. So before we do get
Mhm.
into it, I would love to hear like a little bit of a definition for those that are unsure what astrology even is.
Yeah, definitely. For me and how I teach astrology and my journey, I feel astrology is a map. It's really just a map for you to use and take advantage of this lifetime. Ultimately, when you look at your birth chart or when you look at your zodiac sign, it's really just an indicator for the type of flower that you are. And every flower, smells different, grows different, looks different, acts different, has a different purpose in the environment that it's in. So this is why you'll see, for example, no Virgo is the same as another. Uh, uh, you look at Michael Jackson, you look at Beyonce, like, yeah, they're both Virgos and they both do music, but they do it quite differently. So it's really just a map for you to coordinate yourself. Most people are acting in alignment with their chart already, but then society just so happens to be like the country you live in also has a birth chart. It has its own date that it was created, and that affects your chart. And the people that are around you have their own charts, and that affects your chart as well. So my job is really to help people understand how to position yourself mentally and spiritually and emotionally so that you can use the parts of your chart that will specifically just help you get more money, whether that's in your career or in your business.
Oh, I love this so much. I cannot wait to get into this conversation today. I already have a million questions. And the first one being, I know
Mhm.
that many people listening to this will be like, oh, well, yeah, like my star sign is Virgo, which for me it is. And they look in the newspaper, they see what the astrology says for the month, and they go, like that's pretty general. Like, I don't know if that's for me. And I feel like this is really resonating with what you're just saying about how you can have two different Virgos. And so someone might resonate with the newspaper and someone might not. And why is that the case?
Mhm.
Because you said like a chart, right? It's not just your star sign, your main one.
Right. So horoscope, horo is actually, it represents the hour that you were born more than the month, but it's for society, it's easier to show them that your horoscope is your sun sign. So, for example, when you look at horoscopes, you should actually be reading Pisces because you're Pisces rising,
Mm.
and that would resonate more with you. Even though you were born in the month that the sun was in the sky in the zodiac sign of Virgo, you would be better off reading for your rising sign. Your rising sign is the time you were born. And this is just a wild guess, but like over half the people listening to this, watching this, won't know what time they were born, or they don't have their birth certificate, or they never, like, their parents never got it, or they don't, their mom or dad doesn't remember, something like this. So if that's the case, you can actually still get a really accurate birth chart just by having the day you were born and the location you're born, because you can also read horoscopes for your moon sign as well. And if you read for your sun sign, which is the month you were born, in the day, if you can figure out your moon sign, which you can put into a calculator and put your location and the city, and then if you do have your birth time, that will give you your ascendant or your rising sign. And if you read horoscopes in the newspaper, for example, that's how I started when I was 6. If you read all three, you will have a really good idea of what to be doing for that specific time period that you read that information, if it's written for that time period that you're reading it.
Yes, I love your answer so much because I think it would give a lot of people some clarity around that it's not just your main sun sign that dictates like your characteristics and your personality. It does make up like your chart, which has multiple things involved in it, which we'll definitely get into today. As I know that you looked up mine, so I'm really excited to hear about that. But before we do, Sunny, I'd love to hear how you got into this. Like you said that when you were 6, you were reading the newspaper, and you also said like you were homeless and went to 6 figures in 8 months. And I'm assuming that was from using your method.
Yeah. So my mom and my dad were West African. My mom's from a place called Liberia. My dad's from a place called Sierra Leone. They met on a beach. They fell in love at first sight. My mom's a Sagittarius. My dad is a Pisces. And there was a war going on at the time when they met. So they actually got separated because women and children were being, and families were being evacuated. So my mom came to America pregnant, and I was born 3 days later. And on the same day that my dad's birthday, when my mom came to America, we we knew English, but like not from a European or Western standpoint. Like the English was okay. So my psychiatrist, because the pregnancy was in a war, right? So I was in the womb. My mom's like literally running miles just to get to evacuation sites or going to this shelter, this bomb shelter. And the pregnancy was very stressful. So I had a psychiatrist for like the majority of my like early childhood, just to mitigate those effects. And then what he suggested to her was to, because we didn't speak English at the level that I needed to when I was like 6, 7 years old, he just suggested like have him read the newspaper to you, have him read like 2 to 3 sentences. So the newspaper in the back towards the comics, which is what I actually wanted to read, was right next to the horoscopes. So I would read my mom's horoscope for Sagittarius to her. I would read I would read my grandma's in my head, and then mine was right there at the end with my grandma's. So that's pretty much how I got into it. It was like between like 6 to 10 years old. That was just a thing my mom and I would do whenever we would go out. She'd just like put a little coin in the machine. It would give newspaper, and then I would read her horoscope, and then I would read the comics. And that's how things like really started from like the beginning.
Wow, beautiful. That is amazing. And so I'm assuming like from there, right? Are you still in America or did I see that you're in Bali?
Yeah, I'm in Indonesia.
Hmm. And so I know that you went from reading the newspapers when you were 6, right? And then now you're running
Mhm.
your business, I'm assuming full time, coaching people with sales and
Mhm.
marketing through understanding their birth chart and helping them make more money through astrology, right? So, when did you
Mhm.
discover that understanding your birth chart on this deeper level, like beyond just your sun sign, right? Can help you
Mhm.
achieve or be in more alignment to your path of success.
Yeah. So it happened more in like steps. So I'll give you those steps. So step one was for me that period of time that I just spoke on, that 6 to 10 range. And then around 10, my mom and I stopped doing that. And I actually had a brother that was born when I was 10, going into 11, and excuse me, 11 going into 12. And he was premature for multiple reasons. Um, but when he passed, I was really, I was extremely hurt. I was like, I remember that time period so deeply. And we were in the ICU of the hospital. And I used to stay, like, I used to go and do my homework and do things on the computer because I couldn't touch him because he was inside of an incubator. So like the physical touch was just like bare minimum, like worse than bare minimum. And when he passed, we went to the hospital. And I remember going into the like sitting with my mom. We cried, or I didn't cry. When I got into the computer room, I remember going on to Google or something at the time, and I was just typing in his birthday because I was trying to like, I don't know what called me to do it, but something just said like type in his birthday, and I found his birthday on the internet, and it brought me to Cafe Astrology, and this was like almost 2 decades ago, and yeah, I accidentally found his birth chart and I didn't know how to read it. So that birth chart that you sent over to me
Mm.
for yours that I asked for, it it was that. That's the first thing I saw. I'm like 11 years old. I see the word trine. I see the word opposition, Jupiter, Mars, sextile. I'm like, I have no clue what any of these words mean. On top of that,
Mm.
tears are just rolling down my eye, like down my cheeks. I'm like hyperventilating, like looking at the screen, no clue what I'm looking at, just like detaching from the soul, like of my brother. And that was, I would say, step two for me. I didn't understand any of it, but I knew if I just waited a little bit, I would understand. So once I got into like algebra and geometry, like 4 or 5 years later, I would go back and look at his chart and my chart, and the trines, the triangles inside of the chart started to make sense to me. And the squares, the 90-degree angles, all that stuff started to make sense as I learned more math. And I think for anyone who's like confused on astrology, it is heavy on math. That's why it's hard. Um, and like a lot of ancient philosophers like Leonardo da Vinci, Aristotle, Ptolemy, like all these like people like used astrology heavily. I think even if you're a Christian or coming from Christianity, taking that journey, one of the wise men that found Jesus was an astrologer, and he's the one that actually brought them to Jesus. The out of the three wise men, the one who was the astrologer was the one who knew where Jesus was, and he used something called astrocartography, um, which is it's not necessarily their thing, but the Arab astrologers created this. And this is a little deep, but I don't care. I think it might be helpful to someone. But there's in astrology, there's these things that are really important. They're called there's four of them. They're called lots or parts. There's the lot of marriage, the lot of fortune, the lot of spirit, and the lot of travel. So your sun, moon, and rising is like cool, but like it's not shit compared to lot of spirit, lot of fortune, lot of marriage, lot of fortune, because those are calculations that are based on your sun. Like the lot of fortune, for example, is one of my favorite. It just literally tells you where your pot of gold is in this lifetime. It's based off of the calculations of your sun, moon, and rising,
Mm.
which is insane. I didn't figure that stuff out until like maybe 5, 6 years ago during that homeless period I was telling you about. But um, yeah, it I would say step three or part three for me was like in college. I took a year off and I left my mom's house. I was staying with a buddy. We would we took a gap year right out of high school, and we used to throw parties. And like I was the guy who invited the girls, and my buddy Dominic, he was the person who like always had, he would just get the alcohol, like however he just manifested it. He's a Libra. So we would throw these parties, and then after high school we were like, let's take the show on the road. So we basically hit all the top party schools in America, like the top 12 party schools, playing beer pong tournaments. And I think in my blackout drunkenness, I would ask people regularly what their zodiac sign was. And like, I would remember we would get each other on like Instagram or whatever, on Facebook. Nah, I didn't really use Facebook back then, but I would remember people's birthdays because of their sign. And I would be like, that's how, I think that was like where I started taking it more publicly from myself. And then people would ask me, like, what does that mean? And then I didn't know. So I had to like go and do research. And then I would tell them. And this was like, I would do this like blackout. And people would be like, oh my God, you told me about my entire life the other day. Like, you literally, you knew, you like channeled. They wouldn't say this because I wasn't aware as much as at that time. So I wasn't attracting those people, but they would be like, you explained my entire childhood, my relationship with my mom and dad, da da da. Like you literally knew everything about my ex. And like I was like, I don't even remember having the conversation.
Wow. Wow.
So that that's kind of when I realized, I didn't know what it was called at the time, but like I'm a medium, which is a whole other topic. But I was using astrology as a tool for just understanding people at first. Well, my brother, myself, and then other people. And then now I guess stage four, the last like 5 years has been, I when I was homeless, I sat down. I was actually, when I say homeless, like I was on the streets like during the daytime, but I was sleeping in my mentor's office. There's this woman in Minnesota where I'm from. She has a she's an astrologer, and she wanted help promoting her book. And I was like, cool. And at the time I just learned how to, there's a television station in my city. It's like a nonprofit place, and they invite people in to like make shows on local television. So I went in, I took the classes, like a couple $100, and I learned how to set up an entire studio for production, for camera. And I was like, cool, yeah, like I have access to 50,000 people. If you just wrote this book, my goal was to become her student. And because she stopped teaching. So I was gonna like, okay, cool, let me promote your book and I can learn from you if you're open to that. And she was like, I'll think about it. And then I recorded the episode for her. And then this is right before quarantine started. Um, I recorded the episode, and then her book launched, and I didn't have the episode out, and she asked me why. And I finally one day I just was like, I'm done biting my tongue. I just told her straight up, like, I don't have a place to live because I haven't been charging anyone for this service that I'm doing, because I didn't at the time I didn't know how. And I was putting a lot of people on TV. I just didn't know how to charge. So I like couldn't afford anything. And I ended up like losing everything, having to like give my stuff away. I refused to go back to my mom's house. I was like, I don't want to do that cycle again. I'm leaving this cycle. And she was like, okay, well, you can sleep in my office, but you have to help me sell this book because that's what you promised me. She's a Virgo. So I was like, okay, yeah, of course. I was like, easy. Like, as long as I get to keep my promise, I'm happy. And also, I get a place to stay. And then I would make presentations and do some of her social media stuff. And she would like throw me a couple $100 a week so I could eat. But that was stage 4. And then inside of her office, I was there for like 3 months. This was right before quarantine. It was like December 2020. Um, I started posting on Instagram and TikTok, and people would watch my videos and they're like, well, I don't know what you're talking about, but can you read my chart? And I was like, I told myself, I was like, I'm not going to make the same mistake that I made with my TV production company. I'm going to charge. So I started charging like $10, or no, I did free. I grabbed, you can, it's funny, but you can actually go to my Instagram and see in the start here button, I collected like hundreds of reviews and I would read people's charts for free. But the agreement was, you have to give me a review or a testimonial. Because I was thinking long term, if I get a bunch of testimonials and reviews, then I can properly price myself. Because I read in, so she had, I should go back one step. She had like 400 books in her office about astrology. Like some of the oldest, but like sometimes the pages were like dusty, falling apart, like almanacs. I read almost 400 of her books, just under. I counted. I had a list. I still have the list actually. But I read all of her books because it was so cold. I had nothing else to do. I had Wi-Fi, but it would go off after 6 p.m. So I had to read. And I would read astrology books like back to back, like mind-numbing formulas, read every single rising sign, and I would reread it and reread it and reread it. And I would make videos, and the videos never went viral or anything, but the people who did watch really started getting interested because I was talking about them. And then some friends were like, where are you? Like, I want to support what you're doing. They just wanted a reading. So I would give it to them for like 50, $60, and I would increase my price. And then finally, I saved up enough money to get a security deposit at this apartment. It was a brand new apartment. And I just had to save up like $600. And I moved in. And that was like, that's where that apartment that I saved up for is where I actually started making a significant amount of money. In the first like 8 months, I accidentally went viral on TikTok, talking about something called North Node, Midheaven, and Chiron, which is another place in your birth chart that you can look for specific things. Those specific things are North Node in the chart. If you look up your birth chart and you look at your North Node will help you understand your purpose. Your midheaven is another important part of your chart. Your midheaven is the contract that your soul made with the collective before you came into the body.
Wow.
So it's like your vocation. It's the work that you chose to do. And then Chiron is how you heal yourself and other people. And the video that I made went viral because I said sun, moon, and rising is not that important. If any astrologer is still feeding you that, they're shit. What you need to be looking at is your North Node, Midheaven, and Chiron. I went to sleep. I woke up the next day. I had 14,000 followers off that post.
Wow.
I'd been sitting at 1,000 followers for like barely 1,000 followers for like a year. And that video took me to 15K. Half the people in there that made the post go viral were actual astrologers at the time on TikTok. And they were pissed because I attacked them basically. Uh, they were still pushing this sun moon rising agenda when like in reality like that's a great starting point, but it doesn't actually solve any problems, especially in Western astrology. Sun moon and rising only describes your sun sign, the month you're born, the day you're born, only describes how you express yourself. Your rising sign is how you actually display yourself, so it's like your profile picture. And then your moon sign is who you are behind closed doors, or who you are internally, like your self-talk, like when someone's talking and the things that you're thinking as they're talking. That's your moon sign. In Buddhism we call it the golden palace.
Hmm.
So, or lunar mansion, you can call it a lunar mansion as well. But when I made that post, several astrologers who had like hundreds of thousands of followers were pissed. And they were like, the sun, moon, and rising is the most important. Who are you? You don't know anything. You're out here feeding people all this like stuff. It's too advanced for them. And then everyone who wasn't an astrologer was like, holy shit, like I've been looking for this information my whole life.
Wow.
I never knew how to heal. I never knew what my job or thing was supposed to be. I never realized that I could figure out my career, and hella people were just saying thank you. So that was how I manifested fame, was really just in my North Node. I'm a Sagittarius North Node. My North Node, I share it with Billie Eilish. Sagittarius North Node people are supposed to like, we're kind of the punks of the zodiac when you have that zodiac in your North Node. So my purpose is to kind of break the rules.
Hmm.
So when people say things like, "Oh, the sun sign, moon sign, and rising sign is so important," I'm like, "Be fucking for real!" Like, there's so much more information that's valuable in the birth chart than that.
That's so good.
Like, that's why I think a lot of people, especially like I've been traveling for 3 years around the world, and like when I meet guys, this is a sub story, but like when I meet certain guys and like girls out and I ask them like their sign, they'll be like, I used to get a lot of like, you believe in that? I'd be like, it doesn't matter if I do. Like, and then they'd find out like I'm a whole astrologer on the internet. But when I would break it down to people, ultimately your chart, your sun, moon, and rising is not that important. It is, it's a foundational thing. So it's like it is the foundation, but it's not that serious. Like if you really, really, really want to step into the most, I love this phrase, the most demure version of yourself, like you really want to look at, we'll talk about it, but there's other things in your chart that can help you be who you want to be, who you really think you are, who you feel like you are. But society will remind you that you can't be that person until you fully release the programming. And I think that's the beauty of the chart. So those are like the 4 steps of my journey. Um, and then right now I'm still in that 4th step of like scaling that original business and understanding how to use that. Because when I was sleeping in the office, my my mentor at the time, she told me, she was like, you're not supposed to be an astrologer, and if you do go the astrologer route, like you won't make as much money as your chart says it can. Because I have a bunch of 10th house placements in Capricorn like Jeff Bezos. So she said you should do business, and I was like, oh, okay, cool. So I can do business, but then in my head I was like, I still want to use astrology as a tool. Because if you've heard the phrase millionaires don't use astrology, billionaires do. Have you heard that before?
Yeah, I definitely know of some billionaires who have used astrology. So, yeah, seems legit.
Give me a list of names. But also, um, I realized that JP Morgan, guy who created Chase Bank, um, he had 4 to 10 astrologers on payroll while he was creating his banks, and while he was alive, he had astrologers. Um, and I actually just took another financial astrology course from a very good stock trader. And I'm learning that like astrology is really, this might help someone else who's listening before I'm done with this monologue. Astrology is really just patterns and cycles. So every few years, you'll see jeans come back, like flared jeans. You'll see them come back, or you'll see booty shorts come back, or you'll see like steak and eggs diet come back. And in the stock market, in society, in humanity, there's patterns and they just keep happening. So that's really a true astrologer is someone who recognizes those patterns and then picks what types of patterns they want to look at. A majority of astrologers that you see online like to look at behavioral or relationship patterns. I don't think that's helpful because people can change if they really want to or if you invite them to. So I like business because I like to give people the autonomy to create wealth. And I didn't say any of this, but I started working when I was 14 and I have extensive knowledge around customer service, sales, and marketing because of the jobs that I worked. I've never not gotten a job. I've worked for Apple, Hewlett Packard, Best Buy Corporate. I've worked for multiple computer companies as a salesperson. And it's really, I think the thing I like about what I do now is that I get to help people, give people what people want. Sales, I think a lot of people are nervous to start their business because they're afraid to sell. They don't want to come off salesy. But because I've been doing sales for almost 2 decades, it's literally just giving someone what they want in the way that they want it. And we can go in depth about that. But yeah, that's the monologue. Thank you for listening.
Oh no, that is so beautiful. And thank you for sharing because I think there were so many important topics that we covered just now. And yeah, for sure. I would love to hear then what would be your biggest, like maybe 3 tips for selling somebody what they want in business, how they want it.
Yeah. So just a second. You said what's the biggest 3 tips for selling? All right, I'm back. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay. You said, could I have that back one more time, please?
Of course.
I had to disconnect my.
That's okay. So well, how you said we could go deeper into selling somebody something that they want, how they want it. What do you mean by that? And maybe like 2 to 3 tips on how to do that for someone in business.
Yeah. So I think in my story, I kind of layered this in the phases, in the steps, but it's really just 3 simple steps. I think I like to run businesses as I like to think of a restaurant as a business. It's like the hardest business to run,
Mhm.
but also the most profitable. It can be. So when you're running a business, I think the first thing, if you're brand new, you have to give things away for free and see if people bite. So it's kind of like when you go fishing, you have to put like a worm or another fish on the hook. Otherwise, the likelihood of you catching a fish is so low, right?
Yeah.
So when you're starting a business from scratch, and when I say from scratch, I mean like if you're under $100,000 in your business, you have to get really good at learning what it is that you need to give people for free. A lot of people make the mistake of thinking like they need to make an ebook or they need to make a course or they need to have like something to sell, like a product. Like you don't need any of that shit. What you actually need to figure out really quickly is what do people even want to buy? And you'll know people want to buy it because they will take out their credit card and pay for it,
Mm.
or they will pull out cash and pay for it. Not It's not the what you I think this is the biggest thing I work on with my cohort group. I have a program called Secrets to Your Success.
Mhm.
What we're really dissecting every week is what you think you want to do for your business doesn't fucking matter if other people don't need that thing. When you go to McDonald's and grab a burger, the CEOs and directors of McDonald's aren't selling you burgers that they like. No, they're selling you burgers that you like. And they test those burgers out on hundreds of thousands of people. They test different types of ketchup, different types of bread, different types of meat, chicken, eggs, whatever the fuck. They test all of that out before they ever put it on the menu as a new thing. They don't make burgers for themselves. They make it for the person going through the drive-through who has 2 kids and has 10 minutes. So when you're figuring out what business you're trying to create, there's 3 categories that you really want to step into that will work based on society right now. And I would say for the next 20 years, this will be the case because Pluto has just entered Aquarius. So we're in the age of, a lot of people say we're in the age of Aquarius and blah, blah, blah. That's all bullshit. We're in the age of AI. It's not going to go away anytime soon. So you need to either embrace it or let it corrupt and destroy your life. No real other option. So you're either going to fall, you're going to fall into one of 3 categories. One is consulting. Number 2 is education. Number 3 is going to be software. Now, I say software lightly. I'm not saying if you're trying to create a business, you don't need to have a software, but you do need to have a software that helps people, or you do need to have an education. You do need to have an educational business that teaches people something. And if you're a consultant and you just know some shit that most people don't know, and it helped you solve the problem or helped another person solve the problem, it needs to help them solve a problem. So those are the 3 spaces that I would say are the most important. But the only way to figure out if that's going to be the case is you have to give things away for free. And I figured this out when I used to give astrology readings for free. So during quarantine, I don't know if you remember George Floyd, the situation.
Sounds familiar, not really.
So in Minneapolis, there was a guy who got his head was like pressed on by the knee of an officer during quarantine,
Yes, yes,
and
I
there was
remember.
riots around the world.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that happened 2 blocks down the road.
Wow.
The road from me. I was doing readings and stuff at this bookstore at the time, and we went from like I was literally walking like 5 minutes to the bookstore to do readings to literally there's tanks, there's snipers, and there's military on every fucking block because
Wow.
of the riots. So I decided to stay home like a good Pisces. And I went even harder on the internet and I told people, I had a friend at the time, her name's the Existential Pisces on Instagram. She and I would talk a lot because we're both Pisces. And I told her, I was like, can you do me a favor? And she was like, what is it? Because she would ask me astrology questions all the time and I wouldn't charge her. So I was like, can you give me access to your audience? And she was like, sure. What does that even look like? And I was like, I want you to tell them that I will read their birth chart for free for a testimonial. And she at the time had like 50,000 followers or something.
Wow.
Um, and I have never worked harder in my fucking life. So she made the post on her story. Hella people hit me up. I sent out a bunch of calendar links and I think I read like 400 charts in one summer for free. Didn't
Wow.
accept, I didn't openly ask for cash. So when I say do something for free, I figured out that there was a demand for readings that way by giving it away for free. If so, this is really important, I think, for people listening, whether you're doing like a career or you're trying to make more money in your business. If people won't buy your free shit, they will never buy your paid shit ever.
Boom. I love that so much. That is some solid advice there.
So once I realized, okay, there's a demand for this, people want help. What I did then, and this is probably the most important step, and this is going to take a lot of people out of their comfort zone, is every time you have a conversation with people, you need to track what you say and talked about, or what they say and talked about, because that is going to become your marketing. A lot of people will come to me and they're like, I want to go viral. I see you go viral every fucking day. And you're always talking about how to use your Mercury to go viral. And I'm like, yeah, your Mercury in the birth chart is the planet that rules over communication. And it rules over your personal communication, how you communicate to the world. But the other end of that is it's how you think, and it's how you analyze things. So for obviously everyone analyzes things differently, but when I realized what Mercury really was for me, I noticed I'm the type of person, I'm not a Virgo at all, but I have a lot of Virgo tendencies because of the way my birth chart's set up. When people tell me things, I have always had a habit of writing it down. And this is because of I've been in sales. So when people tell me, oh, I need my computer to do this, I want it to last this long, I'm the type of person to just jot down notes and then I point them in the right direction. So this is another key thing. If you are right now in a job, or if you're doing if you're some type of consultant, or maybe you're freelance, don't even use the fucking word freelance because it's not a real word anymore. But if you're in that kind of mindset or frame in this moment and you want to take yourself out, you need to use your Mercury. Now, your Mercury is not important. It's the idea and the concept of Mercury that is important. Your personal Mercury will get important later. Initially, though, you need to actually analyze the conversations that you're having, because that's what Mercury does. It's communication, it's analytics, it's how you think. So when you write down what you talk about or what other people talk about, you will start to see patterns. So I started noticing, out of the 400 plus readings, and I have these on my story or in my highlights on Instagram, you can literally go and see 2020, 2021. I have a shit ton of reviews and testimonials from that time period. I would write down everything that they would say to me. And I started seeing themes, which were health, wealth, and relationships. Most people asked about wealth and relationships. The health was kind of a thing, but most people don't want to admit that they're unhealthy. That's a whole other topic. So once I identified relationships and money were the top two things that people came to me for, that's what I started making my content about. So step one is, again, give away free shit. If people don't want your free shit, you need to figure out what the hell they want for free. And if it costs you your time in the beginning, that's okay, because later it will cost you money and you don't want to lose money. So give us something away for free, like consultation, education, or software. If you are good at graphics or putting together some, if you're good at using Bubble or AI or whatever, please do it now. You're in a great spot. So step one, give away free shit. Step two, write down what that free shit did for that person and why they even came to you. If you just type it in a Google Sheet, or if you use like Fathom AI to record the messages, if you're using Zoom, you basically just want to get them on the phone. Or if you're using your Instagram DMs to run the thing, or TikTok or LinkedIn or Twitter, you want to screenshot all of the things that you guys talk about and put it into ChatGPT and have it catalog or categorize your things. I didn't have this privilege when I first started, so that's why I'm telling you to do it. But you want to write down every single conversation you have with anyone. If people don't want to, like, if you're in business right now and you find yourself like people don't want to buy your stuff, ask them why. What would help them buy your stuff? Because this is important too. Because if you just add that thing in, maybe you just solve the problem that you were looking to fix in your sales, right? So step one, give away free shit. Step two, write down every single thing the person says. What are they struggling with? What are their desires? Why are they staying stuck? What's blocking them? Do they have family? Are they supporting anyone else? Things like this. And then you have your content basically forever. People who tell me they don't know what to do for marketing lets me know immediately that you just don't talk to your customers.
Mm.
If you just talk to your customers, they will tell you, okay, yeah, we solved this thing, but this thing came up next. Oh, perfect. I'm going to put that into my program, or I'm going to put that into my ebook, or into my course, or into my whatever the fuck you're selling.
Yeah.
Step three, once you give away the free stuff, then you track all of it. Step three is you need to figure out how to scale it from the beginning. And scaling is important because a lot of people make the mistake of everyone and their grandma's a healer, right? Everyone and their grandma wants to heal people from childhood wounds, which is great until you realize then you're playing the role of the therapist. Therapists don't solve problems. That's not their job. That's not the job description. This is why coaches are like the fresh version of a therapist.
Mm.
Okay. So if you're a coach or consultant and that's where you're choosing to start, don't choose the I'm gonna help. What I get a lot is I want to help women heal from their trauma and abuse. And I'm like, why? And then they tell me because I went through it. And I'm like, great. What are you gonna help them accomplish? And they're like, well, they're gonna be healed. And that's great. But the self-reflection piece comes in. Are you healed? And how do you actually measure healing from psychological damage? How do you actually measure it? Because the only way to measure something like that is by tracking it in great depth. And you can do that scientifically, like how what's the dude's name? Becoming Supernatural. What's the author's name? Joe
Oh,
Dispenza.
yeah.
Yeah. So he can openly say that I heal trauma because he is tracking every fucking thing. He's tracking chemicals, he's tracking the person's body, his weight, temperature, brain waves, everything. Then you can say openly, I help people heal from trauma. But if you're not tracking things, there's no real way to measure it. And that's why your Mercury will fail because you're not analyzing.
Mm.
Someone can tell you, oh my God, this session was so good, I feel better. But if they go back to doing the same shit a week later, you have accomplished nothing and they have accomplished nothing. And this is why they won't buy your services again. Does everything make sense so far?
Yeah, this is great. Great advice. I love this so much.
Perfect. Thank you. So, step three is important. So, you need to build something that can work at scale. So, I tell people you need to sell something that's tangible, measurable, and if possible, if you can just hit the tangible and measurable goals, like you're in fitness, you do fitness things regularly. This is why the fitness industry is fucking crushing as always, is because there's a tangible, measurable goal outlined. I'll tell you number three in a second, but tangible, measurable goals is what creates a great business. So don't try to figure out what niche you're in. Don't try to figure out what to sell. Try to figure out how can you give someone a tangible, measurable result. Because if they look in the mirror and they're like, I have a big bum, 6 pack abs, and I literally feel so good. And people stare at me when I walk past when I'm just wearing normal clothes because my physique is just amazing. That's a tangible, measurable result. It took 8 months to do the tangible physical result. If you're a business coach, I get very frustrated when I talk to certain business coaches. If you're a business coach or a consultant or you're teaching people business, it's very important that you give people a tangible, measurable result. That almost always should be them making more money. If people aren't making more money, you're not doing your job
Hmm.
at all, right?
Yeah.
With relationships, because there's relationship coaches. I actually hired a relationship coach. I was engaged in like 2012. No, wait, 2016 or something. Yeah. But when we broke up, I broke up with her and I was just like, I'm going to follow this spiritual path. She laughed and I was like, all right, bye. So I hired a dating coach like 6 months later because I realized like I was in the cycle. I was in this pattern of meeting someone, getting into a relationship, and then falling out of alignment with my masculine energy, which is because I have a Cancer Mars, which is like a very feminine Mars. So now that I know how to use it, years later, this dating coach had a team, and one of the coaches was the only woman on the team, and she used to make me go out every night, every single night, and I would have to go to a bar or a club, no wallet. And if I did take something with me, it was just my ID so I could actually get in. But she would make me go to these places and she would make me talk to people. And I had to talk to a lot of people. And because I didn't have a wallet, sometimes I didn't have what is it? I don't even remember what it's called, like entry, pay like to get in. So
Yeah.
I would have to talk to the bouncer, or I'd have to make friends with the bouncer right there.
Whoa.
And sometimes I would have to wait 10 minutes, 30 minutes. I've waited like 1 hour before, and the bouncer would be like, all right, man, you can go in. But what my dating coach taught me, and she's a relationship coach, but specifically for dating, she just taught me how to actually connect with people. So like now that I've been traveling the world, the tangible measurable result is I can go any country as long as I have Google Translate. I can make a joke in their language, talk to them, get to know them. I can go into any spot that I want to, meet people, connect. It takes me like a week, but it's because that coach made me go out every single night, and I had to talk to 100 people. And she would sometimes in the beginning, she would make me write down their names, and I would have to show her their names and describe them and show the Instagrams handles. Like it was
Wow.
very intense. It was very intense. So when I say tangible and measurable, I've been through a lot of things where the result that I got was very tangible and measurable. And like interpersonal skills are very tangible and measurable. Like some of you listening to this, you could be a relationship coach. You don't need to help people get married if you're not married. But if you go on a lot of dates, if like getting dates is easy for you, you can teach someone how to get dates because there's a high likelihood that there's a girl or a guy who doesn't go on any dates. And if you can help them figure out why and how to stop that pain, because it's very painful, you can make a lot of money. Okay. So those are the three spaces that I would say is health, wealth, and relationships. If you can get into one of those and do consulting, education, software, and if you can start by starting for free, you will have a really solid business. Now, the third thing is once you do the free thing, you do the content and the marketing. Some of you might say, like, oh, well, I don't like making content. You've never tried, or not to the extent where like nothing ever went viral. The only way you can get a viral post out is if you are completely thinking about the other person, kind of that McDonald's reference I was giving you earlier. So the planet I use for this is Jupiter. Jupiter in the birth chart is very like helpful because it's how you get messages from the divine. Mercury is how those messages turn into words or to thoughts. Venus in the birth chart is how you reflect your inner beauty or your inner dialogue out into the universe. So this is the love frequency. Does everything make sense so far?
Yeah.
Cool. So those are my three planets. When I'm looking at someone's chart for their business, I'm instantly like, okay, how do they make money with their Mercury? Who are they attracting with their Venus? And then their Jupiter is in this sign. Okay, cool. This is what they need to teach their collective group. It doesn't matter if you have 1,000 followers or 100,000 or a million followers. I've worked with all spaces. The Jupiter is so effective for what do you need to give to your collective. Jupiter is the planet of abundance. A lot of people say they want abundance, but abundance isn't tangible. It's a feeling, it's a vibration, and it's a combination of frequencies. So you need to hold Jupiter internally. People who say, "Oh, I just want abundance in my life," and I'm like, you have to you have to choose that feeling. Then, like, it's not outside of you; it's internal.
Yeah.
Most things are internal, especially abundance. So once you understand this is where you can start to scale a business. Scaling a business is where you take it from nothing to something. So my first time scaling my business to 100,000, I did selling one product. I had one product. I used one channel and one platform. And that's how I'd recommend if you are under 100,000, that's what I would recommend. It's Alex Hermosi who and Layla Hermosi who taught me this. One platform, one product, one channel. So a channel is like a podcast or YouTube. You don't need a channel right away, but it will help you long term. YouTube and podcasts are long term games.
Hmm.
You need one service or product. A lot of people try to sell, they're like, I want to sell tarot card readings and I want to sell consulting and I want to sell courses and I want to sell ebooks. Okay, great. Good fucking luck. You're going to be sitting on Canva for many months. Okay. The best option is to just pick one thing based on based on the conversations that you had with the people that you brought in for free. I obviously did the extreme. I did 400 plus people and asked them questions. I'm a very extreme person in human design. I'm a manifestor 3-5. So I when I experiment hard. When I fuck around, I find out, right? So once I found out, okay, these people want astrology and they want to learn it from me, that's what they told me, right? But I realized the first time I made my first six figures, I did readings for $55 and I just promoted $55 because I realized a lot of astrologers sell their readings for like 100, 200, 300. So I told myself, okay, cool. What I'll do is I will sell my birth chart readings cheaper, less expensive, and then on the back end, I will sell my coaching. So my content was already so different from the other astrologers. So I already had, it's called a unique mechanism. If you're going to be in any space, it's really important that you have a unique mechanism. So a lot of people will say things like, oh, I'm a Virgo, I'm a Gemini, I'm an overthinker. I have so many things I'm good at. Great. Make one thing your main thing. And then the second and third thing that you're God at, your unique mechanism. So for me, that was I'm really good at business and sales because I've been doing it since I was 14. And astrology is my unique mechanism, which is this thing that's just omnipresent in my life since I was a child.
Hmm.
So when people are trying to create their niche, you use this method. Or if that's too complex for you, there's something called ikigai that you can use, and ikigai will help you understand your purpose, your vocation, what the world needs, and one other thing I'm missing. But if you go look up ikigai, there's 4 categories. You can fit yourself into there, and that will help you understand your unique mechanism because everyone wants to be special. No one wants to be another coach or another person on the internet barking this and that. Great. Just figure out what makes you unique and actually share that with people. Because I guarantee there's a few million other people who also are obsessed with the same thing.
Wow. Oh, that is so much value just then. I know that, like, even from me, I got a lot from what you just said, and I know that the listeners would have too. So thank you. That is some solid, solid points around business, around where like purpose, everything. So thank you. And
Mhm.
I guess I want to be mindful of your time as well today, Sunny, too. So what I thought we could do, even if you I know you had a look at my own chart. Even if we go over a little bit of the points that come up for you in that, so then people can understand of like how you go through someone's chart and specifically how that certain things mean in relation to me. And then I'll also love for you to share at the end like how people can work with you if they're also interested in that, which I know they will be.
For sure. So the biggest thing that I can do for you today, I actually already have your birth chart pulled up. I wanted to show you it if you could let me share my screen to you.
Yeah, of course.
But if not, I can just talk. But the
Uh,
first things that I noticed with your chart are there. I'll get into it in a second, one moment.
yeah, I think you can share now. Mhm.
Okay. So in your chart, one of the first things I do is, like I said, I look up their Mercury, Venus, and Jupiter.
Yeah.
Now, if someone's specifically trying to figure, like, tell me an issue that you're having in your business.
Um, well, I think like all of the points that you covered just then, definitely things that I need to do. Um, for me, like I have two sort of split visions. One being working with like professional elite sports teams, consulting, doing like almost mindfulness and meditation workshops or um, like that kind of thing, NLP, hypnosis. And then on the other hand, doing like large scale events. Like I've always been inspired by people like Tony Robbins or Abraham Hicks and traveling the world running workshops. That's kind of linked in like with my
Yeah,
podcast and what I do here.
perfect. So when I look at your chart, there's a few things that I see, right? So the very first thing is I'm looking at your rising sign, your Pisces rising. So you definitely, your podcast is ultimately the right decision because you are supposed to be sharing your spiritual knowledge. Like in Vedic astrology, Pisces rising is regarded as the guru,
Mm.
spiritual guru, or the writer. So at some point, you actually need to write a book.
I actually have written a
If
book. Yeah. So
cool.
I
So
haven't I haven't done anything about it like yet, but it's done and it's kind of ready to go.
so perfect. The very first thing when I look at your rising sign is, now that I have that information, right now Saturn is transiting your first house. So Saturn's going to be in your first house for the next roughly 2 years. Okay. Um, One second, let me pull something out for you. When you're looking at a person's chart, because you have a personal brand in your business, it's really, really, really important that you utilize your personal brand correctly. So this chart here is what I and my team created. This is this is what the houses mean. So in astrology, a lot of people make the mistake of thinking like the planet and the zodiac sign is the most important. They don't fucking matter compared to the house. The best way I can explain this is when you look at a pizza, a full pizza, the zodiac wheel, the circle chart, this is what a lot of people avoid because it's difficult to read, but it's better if you're interested in learning how to read your own chart. The circle chart is really important because each house is a different slice of pizza, and there's 12 slices of pizza. The planets each represent toppings. Each topping is a different topping. So you have like pepperoni sausage, pepper, olives, salami, whatever, chicken, whatever. Each planet is a different ingredient on the pizza, right? So your rising sign is that first slice that you eat. It's just the best looking slice. It's just the biggest one. It doesn't always have toppings, but it's just like if you're sitting with a friend and you guys are both staring at the pizza and you go first, you're going to pick the best one, or you're going to let them pick the best one, depending on how empathetic you are. Right. So the first house in your chart is in Pisces. Let's ignore that for a second. We already said that's the guru and the spiritual guru. So we have that information. So we take that and we add it with what does the first house even do? Because in astrology, the houses are the thing that, at least in my business, that's where the magic comes in.
Mm-hmm.
So Saturn is in your first house for the next 2 years. What does that mean? Saturn is the planet that has to do with, a lot of astrologers will say it has to do with hard work and discipline and challenges. And then people will on the internet in the comment section, they'll be like, oh, Saturn's killing me. Saturn's eating me up. Um, Daddy Saturn, please take a break. Like, I just need a break. In reality, what happens? What happens? Just because you know better, what happens when you go into the gym and you destroy your muscles for 6 months? What happens?
You grow.
Yeah. What happens when you go and challenge yourself? What happens when you do progressive overload every week? What happens?
You get stronger.
What happens when someone's in the gym and you know that they can't lift that last rep up and you go and help them and you help them slowly? You don't just pick up the weight, but you actually force them to push it themselves. You just take off 15 pounds with your assistance. What happens?
Mm. They continue to grow, like they get assisted.
Exactly. And they can do it themselves the next time.
Mm-hmm.
So this is what Saturn does is a lot of people avoid the fucking work. They just avoid the fucking work. They don't want to, they don't, and I talk to a lot of people about this, but like if you avoid sucking, you will suck forever. Like no one comes out of the womb great. Like you can have circumstances that position you to be great, but if you don't actually do the work, you'll suck.
Mm.
Right? So Saturn is the planet where if you just do the work, if you just show up and you suck, but you keep doing the work and you challenge yourself and you talk about your products every day on the internet and you make content every day, even if your videos aren't going past 100,000 views or 1,000 views or 10K views, if you can just show up every day, Saturn will reward you, not because of your effort, but because of the time
Mm.
that you put in. Saturn is a planet that has to do with time. And every planet in astrology has to do with time, but Saturn especially. When I went through that period of time where I like everything sucked. By the way, when I did those 400 charts for free, I was barely eating. I was vegan. I was vegan and not by choice. I had a six pack, but it wasn't because I was like working out religiously. Like I just was skinny. So if you can just suck for a little bit and like not spend money and learn a skill, Saturn will reward you, right? So when Saturn's going through your first house, you're the thing that you suck at or that you're like not sucking at currently has to do with your personal presentation, your brand's identity, how your clients perceive you, your visibility, your marketing, your networking events, and your leadership. Those are things that maybe 4 or 5, maybe for you specifically, like 3 years ago, you were probably ass. You're terrible.
Yeah.
Now Saturn is in your first house. Saturn is like, yo, you've been working at this. You didn't quit. I got you.
Mm,
Over the next 2 years, if you just don't quit, 2026, the rewards will come in more than what you actually asked for.
mm,
So if you want 100,000 followers, you want to make your first 100K, 200, 300K Australian or half a mil, you will get that and more
mm.
if you just keep going with your personal brand, your
Yeah.
visibility. So this means and the lesson that I learned is the reason why I post 4 to 6 times a day for the last 3 years is because I have a planet in my first house, just like you. But the difference is this one's transiting. So this is energy that won't last forever.
Mm,
For me, it's a forever thing. For you, it's just for this 2 years.
yeah.
If you just keep going harder on the podcast, if you just talk about your book every single day, and if you just give your book away for free, you will learn a lot. And that will help you step into what you're looking for.
Mm,
The book is probably the more essential part of your business than you think.
yeah.
I'll give you an idea. When I wrote my first ebook, I gave it away for free to the first like 100 people, and everyone was like, "Yo, this is so helpful." And then I was like, "Okay, cool." And then I was like, "All right, well, I'm just giving this away for free. What if I charge $11.11, angel numbers?" I put it at $11.11. I made $1,000 the same week.
Really? That's amazing.
And it was off the back of the people that I gave it to for free all said it was good. It was like a 12-page ebook, literally so simple. Gave it away, got feedback, changed a couple things, sold it for $11, made $1,000 the first week, 2,500 or just under 2,500 the second week. The book took me like 20 minutes to put together.
Yeah. For me, I've been writing this book. Well, it took me maybe a week to write and then like a few weeks to edit. And I've got like over 200 pages, and it's a do it yourself personal development style book.
So what I would do is take the first. So this is the first thing I would do. I would talk to your audience and go on your Instagram story. And this applies to anyone. This is a strategy that works through and through. Post on your story, like do one of those ask me anythings or do a Q&A. And then once you get to like 10 people plus, write down every single thing that those people said for your own knowledge, because you're going to need this for your marketing later. But when they ask you questions, answer those questions on your story and link the book to them. You can go on Gumroad, you can go to ConvertKit, you can give it away as the raw PDF file, or if you typed it in Word, you can just give them the link. However you want to deliver it. If you want to put it in Canva, there's Canva AI. You can literally drop the file into Canva and it'll create the book for you. There's no excuses.
Mhm.
You put it in, you give it to them, and then all the people that say they want the book, you give it to them first, and then you ask them, what part did you like the most? You just follow up with them like a couple days later or a week later. Did you read it? Most people say I haven't read it, but that's an invitation for them to read it. And then also look at the questions that people ask of you. What part of the book talks about the things that they're asking? And if there's like multiple girls like asking you for like personal development, like where to start, just give them that section of the book as a freebie.
Yeah, so good. And it's funny because like these are all ideas I already had in my mind almost, like just give it away for free, get heaps of testimonials and feedback, and then yeah, kind of mold it over time to what it will be.
That's what Saturn wants you to do.
Mm. There you
Because
go.
the book
How
is
cool
the
is that?
yeah, the book is the first step.
Mm.
So in your personal, so that's like just a transit reading. That's how I do prediction. But in your personal chart, you are really supposed to be helping people. Your Mercury is in Virgo in the seventh house. You are supposed to help people with business ultimately. You're supposed to help them with Virgo things in their business. So seventh house is my business house on this wheel here. The seventh house is how you build trust, customer service, how you collaborate. It's how you get clients. If you want more clients, like if you wanted 10 times more clients right now, seventh house. Virgo, Mercury means the most important thing you can do is help people communicate. That's a business model. If you just help people, because there's a bunch of people who follow you that don't know how to make videos. They don't know what to type, they don't know what to say. And you don't need, or they don't know how to do a podcast, or they don't know how to even get their first client. And if you sell them something and you're like hey, I want to help you develop yourself and your personality, because that's what personal development is. If you help someone develop their personality to the point where they can get their first or their fifth client with you, this is great because it's measurable and it's tangible.
Wow.
But
Interesting.
the Virgo thing, the zodiac itself, you just need to give it in extremely practical steps.
Mm. It's interesting because I attract a lot of people that are quite successful in business just naturally.
It makes perfect sense.
Mm.
Your Venus in Libra, so people want to invest in you. Um, even if you found a content creator who, if you found a bunch of content creators or people who want to be content creators and help them do their first event, because
Mhm.
you've done events before,
Yeah.
you could, that's, I've paid thousands of dollars to a coach. She runs a business called Group Launch. It's literally just how to do a 5-day challenge and how to set it up. Like Virgo just gives the practical steps because it needs to be practical, tangible, and measurable in order for people to get results. Virgo wants that, especially your birthday is next month.
Yeah.
So it's super, yay. It's super important. I would plan something starting now and launch it for your birthday. Or if you already have a program, smush it down into one thing
Mhm.
that your audience tells you that they need help, and then you'll start to see your videos go more viral because your posts are about your product and the problem that you're solving instead of what you want to talk about.
Yeah.
The content that, because I checked out your stuff, your content's really good, but we have to really drive home who is this piece of content for. It needs to be for the person watching.
Yeah, for sure.
Because when we make food for other people and we cook it the way they want it to be cooked, like when you cook a steak and the steak is like rare, has chimichurri on the side, and it has rice and 3 eggs that are like grass fed, and that's exactly what the person asked for, and it's on a wood block, and they have a steak knife, and the steak knife has their initials engraved in it, they're going to be like, whoa,
Mm.
you made this for me. You'd be like, yeah, of course.
Yeah.
They'll be like, how much did you spend? How much did you spend on this? And some people even be like, they'll just pull money out of their pocket and be like, I can't accept this without paying you something.
Yeah.
That's how I make my content.
Ooh, I love it. I love it so much. Yeah, I've got a lot of ideas even just from that for sure.
Cool. And then last thing is your Jupiter, you are supposed to help women. Um, Jupiter in the fourth house is the house of women. So when you look at my screen, you're really meant to, you get a lot of downloads very quickly. So I'm sure your audience reflects this too. Like a majority of your audience is women, but also on the other side of that, as you continue to grow, you'll notice that a lot of people rely on you as a support system more than anything, because that's what the fourth house is.
Mm,
So long term, a really good plan is, the fourth house is the house, for me it's the house of hiring. So when you want to scale a business or grow your business, you need to hire people who are going to help you. But if you don't yet, if you're not yet at that point, there's something called cash flow. So in your chart, and in anyone's chart, cash flow is ruled by someone's Venus. If you want to add more cash into your business or into your life, period, you need to use your Venus. Your Venus is in Virgo, which is really good. It's in the eighth house. The eighth house is the house of investments. So, as you can see here, do you see the eighth house here? So, the best way to add cash flow into your business, to make sure that your Jupiter gives you more downloads, and then that you use those downloads to actually share them with the collective group that you're supposed to be taking care of in this life, you want to use the eighth house, because it's going to help you create joint ventures. Like us doing this episode together is a joint venture. I
yeah.
bring one piece, you bring one piece. You want to do, I would 10 times this,
Mhm. Okay.
right? Also, resource optimization. What is resource optimization? Money and time.
Mm,
Sometimes it's even like Zoom, like the Zoom we're using is resource.
yeah.
Crisis management. People will invest in you more if you can help them remove crisis from their life.
Mm,
If they have a pattern of doing certain things that brings them crisis, you can help them remove. Or if maybe they have a boring life and they need more, they need to accept and embrace crisis, they need to take that leap of faith and go into crisis, you can also do that. Your Venus is very good for that, especially if you're helping people with their aesthetics, if you're helping them with their communication, if you're helping them organize events. So people will invest in you if you help them with those three things.
yeah. Wow.
You
Interesting.
can still sell exactly what you're selling, and I would advise you do, but you want to sell the vacation on the beach, sipping a Long Island, or at the beach club if you're at the right, in the right spot. You want to sell the beach club, sipping on a Long Island, dancing. Don't sell the NLP. Leave the NLP out.
Hmm.
You can say it, but don't educate people on NLP. No one
Yeah.
cares.
Yeah.
It's not that they don't care. It's just like when you go to the mechanic and like something's wrong with your alternator and the battery won't fucking start to your car. They're not going to sit there and explain what wrench they're going to use to take out the alternator and what kind of oil they're going to use to lubricate the tube. They're not going to do that. Why? Because you don't care. You just want it fixed.
Yeah.
So this is why I don't, whenever I get clients that sell NLP, Reiki, either shadow workers, light workers, oracle readers, they do Tai Chi, Feng Shui, any of this stuff, the market doesn't want it, because it's not a market. But
Mm,
if you are helping people solve a health, wealth, or relationship or business thing, and you use NLP as your unique mechanism, then people will care.
yeah.
I don't sell astrology. I don't even sell readings. There's For those of you who want to work with me, I don't do readings for payment. I only take on clients who want to work with me long term
Mm.
because I can tell you about your chart. This is the reason why is because when you're a healer, a true healer doesn't heal anyone. A true healer will teach you how to heal yourself,
Yeah.
right? So I can't teach you how to do that in a fucking 45-minute reading.
Legit. Yeah.
Yeah. So this is when I realized that the coaching structure was the only structure that would make sense. I need 90 days.
Mm.
I need 6 months. I need 12 months of committed, repetitive consistency. A lot of people in this space, we attract people who struggle with consistency. But if you're meeting with this person every week to talk about this thing and you're solving this thing progressively, suddenly you'll become consistent because you're consistently showing up and looking at the problem and figuring out how to solve it.
Hmm.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
So that's how I would do some of those things. That's pretty much what a chart reading is like with me, except over 90 days. uh, or 6 months is typically what people do with me. And then I have a few 12-month clients as well. But I really just like working with people who are in an entrepreneurial spirit and they like to heal people. I do have some people that they do advertising and marketing, but the advertising and marketing that they do is for people or for companies that heal. So I work with people in UGC. I have some customers who they they do exactly what you said earlier with NLP. They do energy work, but I remind them like we can't, at least as of right now, the way the market works, we can't sell it as energy work because if someone doesn't know what that is, they might not feel empowered to purchase it. But if you can promise them that they will get stronger and healthier and look better, or they will attract more, people into their life that they align with, or that they will make more money, then they're more likely to jump.
Mm.
And then
Yeah.
you use the NLP, you use the energy work as the tool.
Yeah, I love this so much. And so you mentioned a couple of ways that people can work with you, right? So
Yeah.
for the listeners, to be clear, so there's like a 90 days, 6 months, and then like a 12-month program that you offer. And can people access this via like your TikTok or Instagram?
So the way to access me is to hop into my Instagram. I will give you there's two ways, three ways. I will give you something for free first because I don't want to have the conversation of this. If will this work for me? I don't have the time. I have too many people asking me questions every day. So please just download my free book. It will help you. It's the free book is a 14-day step-by-step guide on how to start, grow, or scale your business based on your birth chart. And we use AI on this side. So instead of me sitting down and talking to you for 30 minutes and you telling me this and that and what you're thinking about, I want you to tell AI what you're thinking about. And I've given you prompts inside of the book that will help you figure it out for yourself. Then you can come to me and we can have a conversation about what you've actually done inside of the book. Because each and every single step is the steps that I walk through today, but it's set up to be done in 14 days. If you don't like reading and you hate that shit, totally cool. I have a free school community where you can actually go in and watch videos on everything that I've talked about here today as well. And there's walkthroughs, the tutorials. I made the videos really short and straight to the point, and I show you what tools that I use for free. If you don't like videos and you don't like reading, totally cool. I have a new moon and full moon masterclass that I have every single month, as well as sometimes I'll have one in between. But you can join one of the free masterclasses. And what I do there is I do a mindset immersion. So I help you visualize the person that you need to become in order to obtain the reality that you're seeking especially with your money and your mindset around finances. After you've gone through one of those three things or all three, then I want to talk to you. I cannot and will not work with anyone unless I know that you're ready for what I actually have for you. Because I do get really good results with people. If you go on my Instagram and go through the highlights, I take people from 1,000 followers to 100,000, which is crazy because I don't have 100,000 followers, but I've done it repetitively with people because of the inner work that I can see for them. So if you're looking for a personal brand or something like this, I do have one thing to sell you. It's not really a sell though. It should just make sense. But I do have a program right now that I'm running called Secrets to Your Success. It's a cohort. We're in the early stages. Every single Monday we meet and I give you all the tools and resources. And I talk pretty much like I did here, except for I'm answering your personal questions while looking at your personal chart in a cohort setting. So it's a group of people. It is right now an early bird pricing. So if you want to get in while the price is still what I would consider low, I suggest that. Um, it's just one price. There's 26 members in as of now. Once it gets to 30, the price will go up because I need to hire someone to make sure everyone's getting served correctly. We already have two other people on the team. So that's the only thing that I do have to sell. I do not read charts one-on-one. If you do want one, it's $1,000 for 1 hour. I don't want to do a chart with you reading. I'd rather help you for long term.
Mm. Yes, I
Yeah.
love this so, so much. Oh my gosh. So, guys, I'm gonna link Sunny's socials in the show notes and the description for this episode. So, if you want to learn more and you want to access those resources from Sunny, just head to his profile and then I'm sure like he'll have the links to share with you there. And Sunny, just to wrap up today, because I want to obviously be mindful of your time and I'm so grateful for this conversation today. Honestly, it's been such a vibe. Now, with every episode, I always ask my guests if they do have one piece of advice or if they were to channel through for the collective a message that they need to hear right now, what would that message be?
This is a great question. I, the first thing that flew through my head is for you to do what you're trying to do, whoever you are, whoever I'm talking to, and whoever is listening, you already have the tools inside of you. And ultimately, if you can just from time to time close your eyes and visualize on a screen yourself being that person and doing those things that are the deepest parts of your soul, and you just remember that you're getting one step closer, you're recreating your life brick by brick. I want you to remember that you can't build a new house with old bricks. So if you just lay down a new brick day by day and visualize who you are becoming, when you get upset, when you get frustrated, when things aren't going well, when Mercury retrograde is eating you up and your ex hits you up and you're confused, close your eyes and sit down for a second and remember who the fuck you want to be and what you want to do. And then take one step towards that each day. And eventually you will have a beautiful house, and it's going to be the house that you planned. And people will come in as messengers, as angels, to remind you that you're doing a good job. Do not tell anyone what you're manifesting. Neville Goddard says this. He's a Pisces. Don't tell anyone your manifestation. Show people your manifestation when it leaves the earth. That's what I have.
Boom. Oh, thank you so much for your time today, Sunny. It's been a pleasure.